we'll get there eventually, Neville.
Oh, okay.
Look, it's a huge pleasure to have gotten to know Neville over the last few months, and well, I met Neville probably a few years ago, but I've seen a lot of changes in that time, and a lot of water's gone under the bridge, and we've gotten to get to know each other a lot better, and mate, I'm looking forward to talking you through your story. Now let's start with.
I just want to thank the guy giving me this jacket. I was so cold.
Yeah, he was shivering. He's lost a few kilos, if we remember. Tell us, how did you lose so much weight in such a short time?
It was a surprise to me actually, because I had a few little falls, and I had some. I went to a doctor about it, and I had some tests done, and I had no idea, but we found out I had bowel cancer, and so they did the test and found out I had one on one side over the liver and the other one on the other side, and so we had to make a decision, and others were saying go down to Brisbane, and then one of the ladies from our Progress Association, the nurse there, and she said, don't go to Brisbane. It's going to take too long, and the bugs, there's nowhere near the bugs here. So we got booked into Harvey Bay Hospital, and I couldn't wish for a better service than what they'd done. And there were so many things happening there. As many know, that they took the the cancer out of the bowels. Yep. And it was successful, and there was nothing there, but about 4 days later I couldn't pass anything, and something clogged up, so they had to go in again and operate again and change it, and then have a bag put out, and then that went all right, and I was getting a bit fed up with the hospital, and I wasn't listening very carefully, and I wanted out, and because we live in a nice place overlooking the water and everything, it's a bit better than the side hospital. And so what happened then is I went home, and 3 days later my wife's feeding me. She said, oh, what's wrong with you? And I couldn't hold food down, and I must have got an infection somewhere, and it was on a Sunday night a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, and I just felt a voice saying to me, well, the only way you can get food in is you go to hospital and they can drip feed you. So we rang up about 1 o'clock on a Monday morning. They rushed me into the hospital, and when I got there, my whole system dropped. My kidney was not great, just a lot of parts. So there were people queued up at 1 o'clock in the morning. They told them they had to wait at least 3 hours, and all emergency got on me, and my wife said, can I leave the room? They said, no, we might lose him. So
yeah, so you ended up having a 2-for-1 deal. You ended up going in for one operation and coming out having had two. Yeah. And how long ago was that second operation?
I think it's about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. It's pretty. You heal pretty quick, don't you, mate? Listen, and just for the crew, how many years have you got under the bridge? How old are you?
I'm 73 now.
73.
Yeah.
Well done to be here. Look, it's great to have you here. And Neville was going to be telling a story last month, and couldn't make it because of that second operation. But wild horses couldn't keep him away from coming down here and telling you guys a story. Just give us a bit of a rundown, just to quickly get up to the here and now. But what about growing up? Where did you grow up? Mum, Dad?
I was born in Victoria, up in the country, in a place called Donald, and things were pretty tough in that time, and so Dad couldn't get work up there. He wanted to get into farming, but he always thought he was cheated in life, and nothing went right. During the wartime they promised things, and when he was a young boy he won a scholarship to go to Geelong Grammar, and his father wouldn't let him go, so he had a chip on his shoulder, and so anyway he went down to Frankston, and yeah, he was a pretty bright man, and they worked on putting the sewage through Frankston at that particular time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and So I grew up in Frankston. By the time I was, we went up to this farm quite often, and something happened up there. I was actually sexually abused as a young boy, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. But then we went to Western Australia, and because I was illiterate, I couldn't read and write properly.
Yeah, tell us about school. What was school like for you?
School was pretty hard. I only got, because I was only 14, and Dad said, well, you're not learning anything, you're just going to get a job, because things were hard back in those times. It was just after the war and depression, and you know, it was very hard to get work. And so I wanted to be a mechanic, and my mother said, nah, you're not being a mechanic, one in the house is enough. So the other thing I loved doing was cooking, so I wanted to be a shearer's cook because there was money in that, I thought. But then in the end, I started working for a big store, Bones in Western Australia, and served my apprenticeship there. My tech teacher was very good because I couldn't do the reading and writing, but he passed me because of my capabilities of doing practical things. And I went on to that, and then got into trouble with the company I was working for because I reckon they weren't teaching me quick enough. And then I got a job from my teacher changing sanitary and health food company into vegetarian eating and making pies and that sort of thing.
Okay. So just to clarify, how old were you when you left school?
I finished it was a 5-year apprenticeship, so that made me 19, didn't it? But they didn't want to pay me as a tradesman then.
Yeah.
So Mum and Dad left and then went back to Victoria, and I stayed on. And then, yeah.
Okay, so coming up to now, what's your passion? What keeps you going? What are you hoping to achieve for the next 20 years?
Well, I'm going to make that because my grandfather lived to 99, so, but he was very sad because he didn't make it to the Queen's birthday.
He never got the letter, eh?
He didn't get the letter. It's been a passion of mine to actually reach out, even though my dyslexia wasn't very good in reading and writing, but I had a vision to sort of set up what's in my mind, reaching out to, because of my own disability, to touch people's lives and young people, and so I started in that area trying to make things meet, and it just went for a long while. And I wasn't with the Lord. I was married at when I was 27, and that marriage only lasted 9 years.
So just to clarify, before you ever met the big fella, you had something inside you that wanted to help other young people who'd been through your experience?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Tell us about that. What happened?
Well, I actually worked out when I was a younger man, there's lots of people, and an encouragement my father gave, one of the good encouragements he gave me was that he told me of all the men that I couldn't read and write and how they made it. And now when I married Sue, my second wife, we started what we call an outreach sailing club, and I had a vision to have a boat and take kids out because I did a lot of racing. Did a lot of racing early, and I found that was good. And I remember one night I was learning acting, and we were in a play, and I couldn't get the words right. I couldn't get this, and then I went out on the yacht, and I come back, and everything just flowed. So I thought, wow, the boating's a way of getting people to get going. It just relaxes you, and
Yeah.
so the vision was to reach out to kids and take them sailing.
Awesome. So as a young fella, you couldn't read and write, or you had a lot of trouble with that?
Yeah, a lot of trouble.
And so how far have you taken, like your sailing and so forth? What's the pinnacle of your achievements with that?
Wow.
Just to encourage, young fellas. There's bound to be young fellas here who have difficulty in those areas.
Okay. First of all, we started off with City Mission, and Hugh Trahan and his wife were. Hugh Trahan was the tactician that won the America's Cup, and so we worked together with him, and so we finally started off with dinghies, and then we stepped out because we're trying to raise money, and one of my friends said, because when I married Sue, that's when I became a Christian, and he said, well, God God provides. We said, and he said, yeah. We said, well, put your money where your mouth is. And so we looked at it and gone. So we raised some money and bought this 42-foot yacht. It was not a lot of money. I got it really cheap for 72,000. Oh, less than that actually. And then I had to do a lot of work on and build it. So and then we took the kids out sailing, and the weekends were just watched. The first week before that, we went had a land of our friend's boat, and we took this lot out sailing. And on this weekend, one of the boys come up to me and said, "I've had enough." And I said, "Had enough of what?" He said, "I had to take the last job we did because Dad taught me nothing but crime, and I had to go into jail over it." And I'm going, "Oh yeah, so what?" He said, "I just want to change my life. My mate so-and-so's in this, and he did this, and the other one's in drug, and he's in the jail, and I just don't want to go on longer." So I offered him a job. We had a bakery, and but that's even funny getting a bakery because we went to our pastor and said, "I had this vision to reach out to kids," and he said, "Well, what's your provision?" I said, "Oh, I don't get much money," and so I had 2 adopted daughters, or Sue's 2 daughters, and he said, "Provision becomes before vision." I go, okay. And then he said, what's your profession?" I go, "No, I don't want to go that because I've been cooking too long as it is." Anyway, I prayed about the whole thing, and one of our friends said, I said, "I haven't got the money for it." He said, "God provides." And I go, "Oh, you're kidding." And he said, "Well, what have you got in your kitchen at home?" I said, "Just a stove and a bench." And he said, "Well, God's provided." And so from there I started a business, and he did provide all the way through, and that's how the boat came about.
That's how you supported the program. Yeah. And what about that young fellow you mentioned? What happened to him in the long term?
Oh, John, I started him in the bakery, and we run the bakery 24 hours a day at those days, and I said to him, "I'm going to trust you." And I said, "You get one chance. I get many chances, you get one chance." And so one night I went down, and because we had a bakery plus a pie shop, Narrabeen, a pie shop, and Motorvale, the bread. We even prayed about that because this was the time the recession was coming, and so we took over this bakery, and doors just opened for that. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, I said to him, "Come back because I got to leave. The other man's got to come and take the van because I'm not coming down." And then we're standing there in front of a nightclub, and he looks down, there's $20. He goes, "Look at this." And I go, "Wow, God's blessed you. I know you haven't touched the till or anything," because we got control over that one. And then he finds $5, and I go, "Wow, you're really blessed." And then I look and find 5 cents, and God's even blessed me. But anyway, it was really interesting. And then so he wanted to go up to the Gold Coast and see his mother. And I said, "Well, you're part of the team." And I said, "I'll give you 2 days because you're part of the team." And he went, and then he rang back and said, "I can't come back." And I said, "Well, you lose your job." Anyway, months later, he come back and he got a job as a gyprock. And he said, "Remember that mate I was telling you about? He's dead, and this one's in jail, and this one's that." And he said, "That's the best move I ever made in my life." So he's changed his whole life around.
Yeah, it's great to see. Great to see. Hey, that's awesome, Neville. Tell us about love and marriage. How did that? You say you had your first wife. Mm-hmm. What happened there? What happened at?
Actually, what I expressed before as being interfered when I was a young boy about 8. There's something very interesting about that, and I can see, we're seeing this all in the court at the moment. What happens in that situation, and even in that situation when another man touches another man, or a woman, and I'll get into that in a minute, that spirit is actually attached to you. And there's a few things happen, and I wondered why I became, probably some say, a sex maniac. All I could see, and what the world was showing, that so-called love is sex, and that's how I've seen it. So when I married my first wife, I was pretty demanding, and if anything goes wrong, I didn't understand. I didn't have any teaching from my father or anyone else what a marriage is about. The marriage to me was you bring up kids and you've got a wife and you can have it. And so I didn't really appreciate, and I remember clearly one night, because I was working 2 jobs, and excuse me, and then one night she said, "Do you have to go to work?" And I said, "Well, you want this and you want that. I have to go to work." And I remember that very clearly. What she really wanted was me to be home and be with her, and I wasn't that, and I didn't understand that, and it wasn't till, so our marriage ended up breaking. She started going out with other men, and then I become very angry and wild, and I was shocking. And then when the marriage broke up, I suddenly realised I can't go this way. What have I done? So I looked around to find out really what a woman's all about. And so that led me.
We haven't got long enough.
Yeah.
But what is a woman all about? What have you come up with?
Well, the thing that I've really learnt, and probably with the men I mention at the moment, it's God has done something. He created man and woman. He also created woman to be a companion. So when the woman and man join together, they're not only in physically, but they're also spiritually. And this is something that a lot of men miss out on. And when you come together spiritually, there's the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, they're 3 in 1. So the husband and the wife and God in the centre are 3 in 1. That's the most powerful, strongest thing you get. And the thing I've learnt out with my wife and me, there's 2 things. We didn't decide when we met one another, that's another story, but we decided we wouldn't have sex before marriage because we didn't want to go through that. And boy, I tell you what, God honoured that, and He's honoured it all the way through. And we found out our love life and everything we do. We struggled in the beginning of the marriage because I still had to deal with all this anger in me. And I did some courses, and I teach these courses now, and we've watched men change. And so the real thing is, what is love? We make a vow that we'll marry a person, we're going to look after and do that until death us part. But today it doesn't seem to be death us part. If something's not right, we just disappear out of it and take off for another one. So what happens in a relationship like that, because you both join together in the spirit as well as in physically, and when you break apart, you wonder why people get upset and done and hurt, because inside us God's created an empty void in our heart to have a relationship with Him, and we're trying to fill that empty void all the time in many other things. And to me it was sex, until I learned it wasn't that at all. There is a part of a marriage, and it's a good part of the marriage, but it's not looking after me, and that's the trouble we make. And that's the teaching we haven't had as men, that we're looking just to fulfill ourselves, not to fulfill the woman. And that's where we make our problems. That's
really good teaching, and you've like that we all have, the God-sized hole. I think one of the songs goes, and that we can fill that with all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And obviously sex is one of the most addictive drugs we can come up with. But you said something else there, Neville, and I just wanted to touch on it because I think it's also important for the guys out there. You said that you used to be very, very angry.
Yeah.
And I know you, and I've never seen you really angry, and you certainly don't come across as angry these days. So the big fella's done a number on you there.
A big job.
I want to know how that's translated in terms of your relationship now with your son, and you told me some stories about some recent events that have been significant for you at this stage.
Because of the break up of the marriage, my wife actually left me, and then I got very angry over it because I thought marriage was so good, and I was looking forward to bringing up the kids, and that all was taken away, and so that anger still remained. And so in the end, through some of the courses I've actually done, I started to see in a different light, and God started to show me something completely different. So I was able to overcome that. So because of that, because my first wife, she has actually died a year ago with cancer, and I got a daughter and a son, and my son didn't want to know me. My daughter didn't have much to do with me, but over the years I've always loved them and hung in there. And recently, when I've just had this cancer, they came up to see me, and I never had it. It was just, I cried because my daughter couldn't stop loving me, and Sue's two daughters are my daughters as well, because I brought them up from about 8 years old, and they just one of the daughters wrote me a letter, and I just cry every time because they've seen the change in my life, they've seen everything that happened, and how I hung in there regardless. I just one of those people. I still keep fighting, and I'm fighting, and I think through this whole thing, God's given me that fight, and the biggest part I'd like to see is men set free, and I've to come into a full relationship with their wives, and have harmony, because that's how we were created in the first place. But the way the world's looking at, so what is love? I'm asking all you men, what is love? Just think about that. Agape love is what Christ gave us. He died for us, and that's what we should be doing for our wives and everything.
Need to be living out, yeah.
And so God's given me a vision when I was in the hospital after coming through that last stage. I should have been dead, but I'm alive. And he showed me a vision. He showed me his heart. And I cried when he showed me his heart. His heart was to love one another. And I've got a little note here. Would you believe that in the Bible, there's 166 verses on love in the Bible?
Yeah, it is the very nature of the big fella, isn't it? And it seems to be a bit of a theme that we've got going, what is love? And so Neville, how many guys have you taken through these courses that you've run over the years?
Just on Valiant Man, 70 odd men, and boy, has it changed their lives.
And how many more do you reckon you could take through in the next 20 years?
As many as it comes. My heart's just for that. And we also do another course, Search for Life, and Valiant Man and Man to Man.
Yeah, good. Listen, guys, I know it's Neville's passion is to, as you said, to set men free, or to see men set free. I mean, we don't do any of the setting free, but it's great to be a part of it, to see it, and it's been a joy to watch you, and it's been a real honour to see how strong you've been through your struggle with cancer recently, and this man does not look at death as something to be feared, and certainly it says he's going to be here as long as he needs to be to do whatever God's got in front of him. And I just want to applaud you today for your work and for your passion for what you're doing in other guys' lives. Thanks a lot.
Okay. God be the glory.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, that kind of brings us towards the end now. There's